I was always the good girl, the planner, the one who color-coded her school binders, double-checked deadlines, and had a 5-year plan by the time she turned 14. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be a pediatric nurse, just like Aunt Mel, the only person in my family who didn't seem completely chaotic. My mom, Janine, was different. She was loving, yes, over-the-top loving, but also secretive. Sometimes she'd pull me out of school for mental health days and take me shopping, even if we didn't really have the money. She'd get strangely anxious if I asked too many questions about bills or our landlord. Still, I never questioned her love. I mean, she raised me alone. No dad in the picture. No grandparents. Just us. Teen Janine and Olivia. Senior year felt like my big break. I had decent grades, some scholarships lined up, and I was finally submitting my EVA and applications. Every night, I'd imagine life at college. Late-night study sessions, making new friends, freedom. I remember the moment everything started to unravel. It was a chilly Tuesday in October. I was sitting at my laptop in our tiny living room, ready to finally hit submit on my application to St. Martin's University. I clicked the button and got an error. This social security number has already been associated with a degree. I blinked, refreshed the page, clicked again. Same message. Was it a bug? Had someone else made a typo and used my number by accident? I opened a new tab and checked another school's portal. Same result. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Not who I thought I was ***. At first, I thought I must have made a mistake. I stared at the screen, blinking at the error like it might magically go away. I rubbed my eyes and retyped the numbers, slowly this time, one by one. My social security number. My date of birth. My legal name, Olivia Bennett. Click. This social security number has already been associated with a degree. What? That couldn't be right. I had opened my wallet and pulled out my social security card. The one Mom helped me apply for when I was 13 so I could get my first summer job. The numbers matched. Everything matched. Maybe it was a glitch. But the more I tried, the more real it became. Every time I entered my information, no matter the school, I hit a wall. The EVA site showed duplicate educational records. Another school had me listed as already graduated. Even the free online scholarship portals rejected me, claiming I was no longer eligible. My stomach dropped. I tried to breathe, but it was like the air had thickened into fog. I refreshed again and again, but nothing changed. I wasn't applying for the first time. According to them, I had already finished. I grabbed my phone and called St. Martin's University, the school I had dreamed about since sophomore year. After a short hold, a woman answered, cheerful and robotic. St. Martin's admissions office, how can I help you? Hi, I said, trying to sound composed. I'm trying to submit an application, but your website says my social security number is already in use. I think there's been a mistake. A few clicks later, she responded, but her tone had shifted slightly. Okay, can I confirm your date of birth? September 22, 2005. Another pause. Longer this time. Well, our system shows that an Olivia Bennett, born on that date, already earned a degree from us in liberal arts, graduated 3 years ago. I almost dropped the phone. That's impossible, I said, my voice cracking. I'm still in high school. I've never been to college. I'm not sure what to tell you, she said gently. You may want to contact the registrar or look into possible identity theft. My hands trembled. My thoughts raced. Identity theft. But who would? I opened another college's portal and tried there. Same message. Then another. The same. 3 colleges. 3 different degrees. My name. My birth date. My identity. It didn't make sense. I was 18, barely scraping through AP Chem. I wasn't living some double life as a liberal arts graduate with invisible diplomas. I needed answers. I shut my laptop and went straight to the kitchen. Mom was folding laundry at the counter, humming along to a true crime podcast playing from her phone. She looked peaceful, almost unnervingly so. Mom, I said, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. Can we talk for a second? She looked up and smiled. What's wrong, baby? I hesitated. Then carefully, I said, I think someone's been using my identity. My social security number. Someone applied to colleges under my name and graduated. The towel in her hands slipped to the floor. For a beat, everything froze. The only sound was a woman's voice from the podcast, describing a killer who faked his death. W what? She stammered, blinking rapidly. That's ridiculous. Are you sure? I triple-checked, I said, and I called the schools. They have full records. Transcripts, graduation dates, all tied to me. She reached out and gripped the counter. Her knuckles went white. That doesn't make any sense, she whispered, eyes darting like a trapped animal's. You. There must be some mistake, Olivia. No, I said, sharper than I meant. There isn't, and I need to know if you did this. That hit her like a slap. Her mouth opened, then closed again. I would never. Mom, I interrupted, my voice trembling. Look me in the eyes and tell me you didn't use my identity. For school, for anything. She held my gaze. Her lips quivered. And then, she looked away. She didn't speak. For a few agonizing seconds, my mom just stood there, her hands still on the countertop, her eyes locked on some invisible spot in the distance. I watched her chest rise and fall, slowly, heavily, like someone preparing to confess to a crime. Then she said it, barely a whisper. I did it for us. My heart stopped. What? I breathed. I wanted to scream, but the words barely made it out. I never meant for it to hurt you, she said, still not looking at me. I only used your information for school at first. I thought if I could get a degree, I could get a better job. Support you better. You were so young and I didn't have options. Her voice cracked, and for the first time in my life, I saw my mother as small, vulnerable. Not the chaotic, unpredictable woman who danced barefoot in the kitchen at midnight or made us pancakes when the rent was late. Just a scared person trying to survive. But it didn't make it better. Now you're in clothes. You stole my identity, Mom, I said, louder now, my voice shaking. You took my life. How many things did you do under my name? She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Just school. And a couple things to help get us by. Bills, some online loans. But I always paid them. No, I cut in. You didn't. My credit is ruined. I can't apply for college. I can't even open a damn checking account without being flagged. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. Not this time. I was desperate, Liv, she said. I didn't know what else to do, and you were just a baby. It didn't seem real. Just numbers on paper. Numbers that belonged to me. We stood there in silence, the distance between us feeling heavier than ever before. All my memories of childhood, every birthday she planned, every night she stayed up with me when I had a fever, suddenly felt tainted. Like everything good had a price I never knew I paid. You had no right, I whispered. I know, she said softly. And I'm sorry. I'll fix it, I promise. But promises didn't mean anything anymore. I spent that night locked in my room, scrolling through my credit report for the first time in my life. The screen lit up with red flags, credit cards I never opened, utilities I never signed up for, addresses I'd never lived at. There were hundreds of pages, years of damage. That's when I realized it wasn't just school. She hadn't told me the full truth, not even close. Around 2 a.m., I opened my mom's laptop. She never used a password. It was one of the few things I'd never thought twice about. But now it felt like breaking into a stranger's house. Her desktop was a mess, icons everywhere. I had opened a folder labeled Docs and immediately saw PDFs with my name, bank statements, applications, email confirmations. Some even had digital signatures that I didn't recognize. And one document tucked in a subfolder called Old made my blood run cold. A birth certificate with my name, but the mother's name wasn't Janine Bennett. It was someone named Claire Thomas. My vision blurred. I blinked again and again. Then I found another file, a scanned copy of a hospital record from a clinic I'd never heard of in a state we'd never lived in. The patient, Olivia Thomas. Born September 22, 2005. Transferred to state custody at 9 months. I sat back, my heart hammering in my chest. No. None of this made sense. Was this me? Was I adopted? Had my mom, the woman I'd loved my whole life, stolen not just my identity but me? I couldn't breathe. I sat frozen in front of the laptop, my fingers trembling above the keyboard, staring at the documents like they might vanish if I blinked too hard. But they didn't. They were still there, still real. I opened the birth certificate again, rereading the name. Claire Thomas, mother. Olivia Thomas, infant. I was Olivia, but not Bennett. And suddenly, everything from my childhood started to rearrange itself in my head like a puzzle where none of the pieces quite fit. Why Minner had baby photos of me before age 2? Why I never met a single relative? Why Mom always got panicked whenever someone mentioned hospitals or paperwork? My breath quickened. I dug deeper into the folders. Most of the files were mundane. Bank records, food stamp applications, a fake transcript for 2. But then I found a file named Photos Do Not Delete. I clicked it open. Inside were dozens of blurry scanned images and digital photos. A few were of me as a toddler. I recognized my chubby cheeks and the birthmark on my left arm. But they weren't taken by my mom. The angles were off like surveillance shots. One in particular made my stomach twist. It showed a younger version of me, maybe 1 year old, sitting in a stroller outside a park. A woman crouched beside me, smiling at the camera. Her hair was long and curly, her skin pale, her eyes warm. She looked nothing like Janine. The photo was labeled Claire, October 2006. I stared at it for what felt like forever. That woman, she held me like she knew me, like she loved me. My vision blurred with tears. I tried to tell myself it was a misunderstanding, that maybe Claire was a friend, a babysitter, some long-lost aunt. But then I opened one final document, a scanned police report. Missing child report, filed, November 2006. Name, Olivia Thomas. Age, 1. Mother, Claire Thomas. Last seen, Public Park, Northridge, Oregon. My name, my birth date, my face. Taken, by Janine. I slammed the laptop shut and stumbled back, my legs giving out beneath me. I sat on the floor, shaking, my thoughts crashing into each other like a pileup on the freeway. Was my entire life a lie? I heard the soft creak of the hallway floorboards. I looked up. Mom, Janine, stood in the doorway, her face pale, lips pressed tight. Her eyes flicked to the closed laptop, then to me. You went through my things, she said quietly. You kidnapped me. I shot back. A beat. No denial. No anger. Just silence. She stepped into the room slowly like approaching a wounded animal. I backed up instinctively. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, she said softly. Like what? You just accidentally stole a child? I was supposed to be your foster mom, she said, voice trembling. It was only temporary. You were sick. Claire was using. Drugs, I think. She left you alone for hours. They gave you to me for 2 weeks. But then, she sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the quilt she'd sewn for me when I was 12. I fell in love with you, she whispered. You laughed when I danced in the kitchen. You held my finger like it meant something. I couldn't bear the thought of giving you back. I stared at her, numb. So you ran. She nodded slowly. I changed our names. Got help from a friend who knew how to forge documents. We moved states. I homeschooled you that year until I could fake enrollment papers. I knew it was wrong. I knew. But you were happy. I raised you right, didn't I? I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw every memory of our life together into a fire and watch it burn. Instead, I said, you made me love you. And now I don't even know who I am. She reached for me, but I pulled away. I'm sorry, she whispered again. But this time, sorry wasn't enough. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, watching the moonlight spill across the floor, wondering who I really was. Every memory felt counterfeit. Every bedtime story, every scraped knee she bandaged, every I love you, it all felt like it belonged to someone else now. By sunrise, I made a decision. I needed to know the truth. Not Janine's version, the real truth. I needed to find Claire. I waited until Mom, no Janine, left for her morning shift at the diner. She still pretended everything was normal, made coffee, kissed my forehead, like we weren't standing in the ruins of my identity. As soon as the door shut behind her, I reopened the laptop and searched the missing child report again. Northridge, Oregon. Filed by Claire Thomas. No updates listed. I dug deeper. Newspaper archives, blogs, Reddit forums about cold cases. The case was obscure, barely covered. But I found one blog post from a true crime writer who listed Olivia Thomas as one of several unresolved custody disappearances from the early 2000s. There was a comment on the post dated 2 years ago. If anyone has updates on this case, please contact me. Claire is my cousin. She never stopped looking. The username was at Chfilma17. Thomas. My hands were shaking again. I clicked the profile. It led me to a public Instagram page. Scrolling through, I saw photos of a woman who looked like the one in the stroller photo. Just older. Tired eyes. Deep lines around her mouth. But the same warmth. She had a bio. Claire Thomas. Advocate. Survivor. Looking for Olivia. I stared at the words for minutes. Looking. For me. My chest tightened. I didn't know what to feel. Guilt? Hope? Terror? Finally, I opened my own rarely used Instagram account, took a deep breath, and sent her a message. Hi. I think you might be my birth mother. Can we talk? I stared at the message for what felt like hours before hitting send. Then I waited. Seconds turned into minutes. Minutes into hours. That night, Janine came home like nothing had changed. She made spaghetti. Watched TV, pretended not to notice the way I flinched when she walked past me. I couldn't even look at her. When I checked my phone again around midnight, my heart almost stopped. Claire had replied, Olivia, oh my God, where are you? Are you safe? I burst into tears. We messaged for hours. She sent me photos of myself as a baby, real ones this time. Me in her arms, sleeping against her chest. Me laughing on a picnic blanket. Me crawling across a faded rug. She told me everything. How she'd been struggling as a young single mother, yes, but how she had gotten help, entered a rehab program, got clean, started fighting to get custody back. How they told her I had been placed with a temporary caregiver and then gone. How no one believed her when she said her daughter had been stolen. I believed her, because now I was the one who felt stolen. By morning, I had made another decision. I needed to see her, in person. I didn't tell Janine I was leaving. What could I even say? Hey Mom, I'm going to meet the woman you kidnapped me from. No, this part of the journey was mine alone. I bought a bus ticket to Oregon using cash I'd saved from my part-time job at the bookstore. I packed light, just a backpack with clothes, my charger, and the old photo of me in the stroller with Claire. I left Janine a note. I need time, please don't follow me. I didn't expect her to listen. The bus ride was long, 22 hours. I stared out the window most of the time, trying to remember the last time I'd felt sure of anything. I kept imagining what Claire's voice would sound like in real life, if she would hug me, if I would let her. Would I recognize her? Would I recognize myself? She agreed to meet at a cafe in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Portland. I arrived early, sitting by the window, watching every person who walked past like they might be her. I was shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Then the door opened. She walked in slowly, nervously scanning the room, until our eyes met. And I knew. There was no denying it. Her eyes were the same shape as mine. Her smile wobbled the same way mine did when I tried not to cry. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me like I was a ghost come to life. Olivia, she said, her voice catching. I nodded, tears already streaming down my cheeks. She rushed to me and wrapped her arms around me, clutching me like she was afraid I might disappear again. I'm sorry, she whispered over and over. I'm so sorry. I never stopped looking. And the strangest part, I believed her. Not because I wanted to, but because somewhere deep inside me, it felt right. We sat for hours, talking, crying, laughing awkwardly when we realized we both hated our lives. She told me about the years she spent putting up missing posters, filing reports, fighting the system that had failed her, and me. She never had other kids. She never married. She never moved on. I couldn't, she said. You were always missing. There was always a hole where you should have been. I told her everything I knew about Janine, about the fake transcripts, the forged papers, the lies. Claire's hands clenched when I mentioned the birth certificate. But she never spoke badly about Janine. She raised you, she said quietly. She stole you, but she raised you. And that complicated everything. Because as much as I was angry, broken, betrayed, part of me still loved Janine. She was the woman who taught me to read, who held my hair when I was sick, who sang off-key lullabies on stormy nights. Was it possible to love your kidnapper? Was it possible to have two mothers? I didn't know. Before we said goodbye that night, Claire gave me something. A small box filled with baby items. A hospital bracelet, a pair of pink socks, a faded pacifier. And one photo of her holding me in the hospital, her eyes full of hope. This is where it started, she said. You deserve to know where you came from. I hugged her tightly. And for the first time in days, I felt real. Not a fabrication. Not a stolen identity. Just a girl with two versions of a mother, both tangled and true. But reality doesn't stay gentle for long. When I got back to the hostel that night, there were 14 missed calls from Janine. And one voicemail. I stared at the notification on my phone for a long time. One voicemail. From Mom, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want her voice invading the fragile space Claire and I had just started building. But my thumb moved on its own. I pressed play. Olivia, it's me. I guess you already know everything now. About Claire, about how I got you. I know you probably hate me, and you should. I deserve that. But please, please don't shut me out completely. I know what I did was wrong. Criminal. Unforgivable. But I loved you every single day. I never stopped. You were never a burden. You were my joy. I know I broke something that can't be fixed, but I'm scared. Not just of losing you, I already have, but of the world finding out, of police or prison. I don't care what happens to me, but I need you to know, I never meant to ruin your life. I'll never forgive myself for that. Just be safe. Please. That's all I care about now. Click. The message ended, but the silence afterward was deafening. I sat on the edge of the bed, the box Claire gave me still in my lap, and tried to feel one emotion at a time. But they all crashed together. Grief, guilt, anger, fear, love. Janine was wrong. I didn't hate her. And that made it worse, because loving someone who hurt you that deeply, that's a special kind of prison. The next morning, I told Claire everything. About the voicemail, about my confusion, about the pressure building inside me like a scream I couldn't let out. She listened with patience that only a mother who'd waited 17 years could have. And then she said something I didn't expect. "You don't have to choose." I blinked. "What?" "You don't have to pick one of us to love or to blame. Life isn't that neat. It's messy and unfair, and sometimes love and harm come from the same person. That doesn't make it okay, but it makes it real." She paused, took a deep breath. "But Olivia, it is time to tell the truth." My chest tightened. I knew what she meant. Jenny had broken the law. She kidnapped a child, lied for almost 2 decades. There were entire cases built around Les, and I had proof. Digital records, fake IDs, stolen tax returns. I could go to the police. I should go to the police. But turning her in felt like cutting off my own arm. That night, I stood on a street corner holding my phone, scrolling through contact numbers for attorneys and child protection agencies. My finger hovered over the screen. I had every right to press call. And yet, I dialed Janine instead. She picked up immediately. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't slept. "Olivia, I'm okay," I said. "I'm with Claire." Silence. "Are you safe?" "Yes." "I'm glad," she whispered. I took a breath. "I'm not ready to forgive you, and I don't know what comes next, but I think you need to tell the truth before someone else does." Another pause. "I know," she said. "I won't protect you anymore," I added. "I wouldn't expect you to. We didn't say, 'I love you.' Not this time. But maybe we can need to." Janine turned herself in 2 days later. She walked into a police station in her hometown, clutching a manila folder filled with forged documents, bank statements, and a handwritten confession. I didn't go with her. I couldn't. But I watched the local news alone in Claire's apartment when her mugshot appeared on the screen. "Woman arrested in decades-old kidnapping paying case." The headline scrolled beneath the anchor's solemn voice. I should have felt vindicated, relieved, safe. Instead, I just felt hollow. Janine pled guilty to custodial interference, fraud, and multiple counts of identity theft. Because I was technically a minor when most of the worst offenses happened, and because she turned herself in, the judge was lenient. 5 years in prison, no chance of early parole. I wrote her a letter. I didn't know if I'd ever send it, but I needed to say the things I couldn't speak aloud. "You gave me a life. You also took one away. You lie, but you love me. I don't know if I'll ever visit you. I don't know if I'll ever call you mom again. But I hope one day I'll understand how to hold both truths in the same hand." In the months that followed, I tried to rebuild. Claire helped me file paperwork to restore my legal identity, my real one. We petitioned the state to have the records fixed, the debt removed, the history erased. It took lawyers, affidavits, and too many nights crying into my pillow. But piece by piece, I began to reclaim my life. College was still on hold, but I started taking community classes under my rightful name, Olivia Thomas. It felt strange at first, though, trying on a jacket that didn't quite fit, but with time, I started to wear it with pride. Claire never pressured me to call her mom. Sometimes I slipped and did anyway. Other times I called her Claire and she smiled like that was enough. She let me move at my own pace. She let me grieve both mothers, the one who gave me life and the one who stole it. One night, a few months later, I visited Janine in prison. She looked older, smaller, but when she saw me, her eyes lit up the same way they always did, with that look only a mother can have. We sat across the glass from each other, phones pressed to our ears. "You look good," she said. I nodded. "I'm okay. Claire treating you right." "She's trying." "Good." There was a pause. Then she asked the question I dreaded. "Do you hate me?" I looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who had bathed me, taught me how to tie my shoes, faked 1,000 birthdays, and never once told me who I truly was. "I don't know what I feel," I said honestly, "but I'm here. That has to count for something." She nodded, her eyes glistening. Before I left, I asked for something I'd never dared to before. "Why me?" Her lips quivered. "Because you looked at me like I mattered, and no one ever had before." I walked out of that prison carrying more weight than I brought in, but also something else, a strange kind of peace, not forgiveness, not closure, but understanding. Now, a year later, I live with Claire. We still argue over dumb things like dishes and thermostat settings, but we're learning each other, building something new. Some nights I look at old photos, the fake ones and the real ones, and try to stitch together the girl in both. I still don't have all the answers, but I have my name. I have the truth. And I'm finally living a life that's truly mine.